Hello, trading has closed on the 18th of July, 2024. As always, we'll begin with our disclaimer, go over our calls, and then make our predictions. This is my trading plan for Friday, which is July 19th, 2024. Please remember my calls can be wrong. Any trade you make should be made at your own risk. Also, we're going to go over some of my targets today. Remember my system, MEJT system gives targets. One has to use other methods of analysis to come up with appropriate entries. Well, today's pattern we said was the pattern with the early high, which is this, and tomorrow's pattern should have the early low. We had a few targets. We had a questionable target of 56.1156. It was an ultimate target. We said if I were eyeballing things the way I used to do before I had a program, I would say it was an ultimate signal, and that would be a legitimate target. But when I had the computer program, I couldn't tell the program to eyeball it, and the criteria I used weren't quite satisfied, so I thought it might print, but I had no statistics. Well, the target printed. That's this line here, and there was resistance over it. So that worked out. We had some other targets. We had an optional target of 55.8605, that printed, and 55.8480, that printed, and that's this red line. We also have to go way back to July 5th to cross another target off the list, 55.4597. That's this red line here. And once again, there's support and resistance where these targets are. So that's all played out. We have lower targets coming up, but that doesn't mean they come up tomorrow. This is what we said would make a far clearer picture for me. I said if we were to gap down and keep dropping, we said if it were an inside day we could rally, but it wasn't an inside day. We'll go over why the gap down was important in just a minute. The fact that we didn't gap down means this is likely to recover at some time. Well, during the day we got rid of this target here. MEJT said this move up wouldn't stick, said this whole big collapse wouldn't stick and that we'd retrace over here. We did, and that was a resistance area, and then we dropped. So that's played out. This confirms yesterday's break because we traded under it and closed under it. There are a number of ways to figure out how low we're going to drop. I don't think any of them are totally accurate. Not this early in the decline anyway, but DeMark has a TDST line here at 54.5843, and if we get that low, and I think we will, there's support at one bar under that price, and I think that's at the very least we're going to trade under this line, but I'm not so convinced we're going to stop there. I don't think we will. Doesn't mean it happens tomorrow. On the weekly chart, we have a line here, 51.27 and change. I do not think that's out of reach at all. And if we hit it, not in a day obviously, there's support under it, one weekly bar under that line. So I think we have quite a ways to go, but none of that means we have to go there tomorrow. Well, we have this long-term top right over here. Here's the RSI. You see how we're dropping there. We're about to go under 50. We're at 54.66. And going under 50, if that should happen, can separate bull moves from bear moves. This is the wave count I'm using, ABC, with C equal to A. Two things to see on this count. We've dropped right to this prior high, which is a support level, So we drop to a support level in a straight line. Usually when you drop to support in a straight line, either you gap under that line tomorrow, meaning you gap under today's low, or the line wins, meaning that that's any drop under this without a gap isn't going to stick. And that applies to this line here too, which is Tom DeMark's TD line. You connect these lows, and we dropped right to that low in this straight line. Now the ideal situation would be to gap under that line if we were going to keep dropping. Well, that's no gap. We traded over that line. And his rules say at some time we're going to retrace to this line, which would take us back over 5,600. Now, it doesn't mean you won't drop first. But usually, not always, usually you don't have to wait too long to get back to this line, particularly when the line's going up, and particularly when you drop to this support in a straight line. And particularly when you have a wave count compatible with this drop being over. I mean, you've got an ABC here. There's good fibs. Wave C itself has good fibs. And even all these things, the fibs are perfect. So we have a perfect ABC pattern. Now, it doesn't mean it's the only count. But it's a straight line drop to the support that we showed with good fibs, unable to hold that low. Despite this huge drop, we couldn't hold it at the end of the day, meaning the last few hours accomplished nothing. These guys could be trapped. And we know from DeMark's rules we should have a retracement back up to that blue line we showed, which is over 5,600. Now, I don't know how we're going to open tomorrow. For all I know, we're going to gap down here and collapse. Nothing stops it. But if this holds, and I think it's likely to hold, not guaranteed certainly, but if it holds, we could have a pretty good rally, even though it's doomed. So this could give people who want to go short another chance if this holds. This is all dependent upon this holding and this going up ideally right from the open. That we don't know. We're not going to know until tomorrow. Well, Friday's pattern has a really low, regardless of where we open. Typically, it's a rally day with a high in the final hour, but if it's weak instead, we should see more weakness. I believe the intermediate path is clearer to identify than this Friday's path. The high of this rally leg should be it. This week's high should hold. And we should decline to significantly lower prices, most likely over a period of a month. Short term, today's drop did not meet DeMark's sustainability criteria, and we should return to that blue line at some time. It doesn't have to be immediately, but usually you don't wait long. Today's sharp decline couldn't maintain a close under early lows, and if that's maintained, and that's in capitals, at tomorrow's open, this should lead to higher prices regardless of where we close. We have spikes in volume in the VIX, and they're compatible with a short-term low. They just aren't a guarantee of a short-term low. It's just if it happens, you can explain it. So if, and that's in capitals too, if today's low holds, we could have a decent rally, but I consider any rally here a counter-trend trade. I'm not really a fan of counter-trend trades, particularly when I'm going to be busy next week and won't be able to put a stop on anything if I'm wrong, which can certainly happen. But if you're a very short-term trader, I think there's a chance we go back over 5,600 if that low holds. But once we hit this trend line again, I think that should be it. I think the odds are very good we're going to hit this trend line and then bombs away on the downside. So if you want a perfect short entry, it's this line with a stop over this high. That's a pretty close stop and a pretty good entry if we see it. Tomorrow's pattern has the early low chance of a rally if this holds, but look out below when the rally's over, and that's today's call.